In the bustling city of Boston, Massachusetts, Tyler Hayes, a 42-year-old divorced entrepreneur, was navigating one of the most challenging phases of his career. Renowned for his sharp business acumen, but criticized for his aloof demeanor, Tyler's company was on the brink of collapse. Investors were losing faith, and time was running out for him to secure funding. Tyler, ever pragmatic, decided to host an exclusive dinner with key investors to salvage his crumbling empire. But there was one problem. He needed a companion to project an air of stability and charm, and he had no time to arrange one. In his luxurious penthouse, Tyler's housekeeper, Emily Carter, a 28-year-old woman with striking auburn hair and a quiet yet confident presence, was dusting the bookshelves in his expansive office. Emily had worked for Tyler for nearly 2.5 years. Though she admired his business prowess, she often found his arrogance hard to bear. As Tyler stared at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Boston skyline, a sudden thought struck him. Without preamble, he turned to Emily. "Emily, I need you to accompany me to an important dinner tonight," he said, his tone more commanding than polite. "This isn't a request. It's a directive. We're something appropriate. Be polite, and most importantly, don't talk unless spoken to. I need someone low maintenance and discreet." Emily froze mid-dust, her heart skipping a beat. His words were as sharp as the tailored suits he wore. She had no illusions about her role in his life, but this demand was unexpected. "Is that clear?" Tyler pressed, his eyes narrowing. Emily straightened her posture, a flicker of defiance in her green eyes. "Crystal clear, Mr. Hayes." She accepted, though not without apprehension. While she saw it as an opportunity to step out of the shadows, she couldn't shake the feeling that the evening might challenge her in ways she hadn't anticipated. That evening, Emily stood in front of the mirror in her modest apartment, smoothing out the navy blue dress she had borrowed from her friend. The gown was elegant yet simple, a sharp contrast to the world of luxury she was about to enter. She had tied her auburn hair into a sleek bun, her makeup understated but refined. Looking at herself, Emily couldn't help but feel a mix of nerves and determination. When she arrived at the Seaport Grill, one of Boston's most exclusive restaurants, Tyler was already waiting at the entrance. At 42, his salt and pepper hair and sharp suit gave him the air of a man who had seen success but was now battling its cost. He barely glanced at her, muttering a curt, "You're late. Let's go." Emily followed him inside, her heels clicking softly on the polished marble floor. The restaurant buzzed with quiet sophistication, muted conversations, clinking glasses, and soft piano music filling the air. As they approached the table, she felt every eye on them. The investors, 3 men and 1 woman, sat at a table near the center of the room. Tyler introduced Emily without much thought. "This is Emily Carter. She's joining me tonight." There was no elaboration, no context. The investors exchanged polite nods, though their expressions betrayed confusion. Emily, a housekeeper in a room full of financial elites, was clearly out of place. Still, she held her head high, refusing to shrink under their judgment. As the dinner began, Tyler launched into a discussion about quarterly reports and market projections. Emily remained silent, observing the dynamics at play. The investors were polite but skeptical, their sharp questions revealing cracks in Tyler's carefully crafted facade. Then came the moment Emily had dreaded. "So, Emily," one of the investors, Michael Lawson, began with a smirk. He was in his mid-50s, with a booming voice and an air of condescension. "What do you think of all this? Business dinners and big numbers. Is it all as glamorous as it seems?" The question, though posed casually, was a trap. Tyler's warning about staying silent echoed in her mind. But Emily's gaze flicked to Tyler, who was staring at his glass, his jaw tight. Something inside her snapped. "It's certainly an education," Emily replied, her voice calm and measured. "But I think what's even more fascinating is understanding the people behind the numbers. After all, profits don't grow in a vacuum. They depend on trust, vision, and leadership." The table went silent. Tyler's head shot up, his gray eyes narrowing as he processed what she just said. The investors exchanged glances, some intrigued, others amused. Michael let out a chuckle. "Well, that's an interesting perspective. It's not every day we hear about leadership from a fresh set of eyes. Emily smiled politely, refusing to let the veiled insult faze her. Tyler, however, leaned back in his chair, his irritation barely concealed. As the dinner progressed, the conversation shifted to the company's social responsibility, or lack thereof. The lone female investor, Lauren Bennett, a sharp and articulate woman in her early 40s, fixed her gaze on Tyler. "Tell me, Tyler," she began, "what's your stance on community involvement? Do you believe companies like yours should give back? Or is that just a distraction from profit?" Tyler hesitated. He didn't have a polished answer, and the room felt the weight of his silence. Before he could respond, Emily, emboldened by the earlier exchange, spoke up again. "Giving back isn't a distraction," she said firmly. "It's an investment. When a company supports its community, it builds loyalty and trust. And those are just as valuable as any profit margin." Lauren raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed. "I couldn't agree more." The other investors nodded, their skepticism giving way to curiosity about this unexpected voice at the table. Tyler, however, was seething. His plan for a controlled, discreet evening was falling apart. Emily, the very person he had instructed to be invisible, was now steering the conversation. As dessert was served, Lauren leaned closer to Emily. "So, Emily, what do you do? You seem to have a lot of insight for someone outside the corporate world." Emily hesitated. For a brief moment, she considered revealing the truth, that she was Tyler's housekeeper. But before she could answer, Tyler interrupted. "She's just here to observe," he said coldly, shooting Emily a glare that froze her words in her throat. Lauren looked between them, clearly noting the tension. But instead of pressing further, she smiled. "Well, observation can be a powerful tool. Keep using it." As the dinner came to an end, Tyler barely waited for Emily before leaving the restaurant. He walked briskly ahead, his frustration palpable. Emily followed in silence, her heels clicking against the pavement. When they reached his car, he turned to her, his expression cold. "Get in," he said flatly. The drive back to Tyler's penthouse was tense. The air between them crackled with unspoken words. Finally, as they pulled into the underground garage, Tyler's restraint snapped. "What the hell were you thinking tonight?" he demanded, slamming the car door shut. His voice echoed in the enclosed space. "I told you to stay quiet, to be discreet. Instead, you turned the dinner into some kind of show." Emily, still seated in the car, unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out, her face calm, but her green eyes flashing with defiance. "I was just answering their questions," she said. "If that's a problem, maybe you shouldn't have brought me in the first place." Tyler's jaw tightened. "You don't understand the stakes here, Emily. Those people don't care about your opinions. They care about whether I can save this company." Emily crossed her arms. "Maybe they'd care more if you acted like a leader instead of trying to control every conversation. People respect honesty, Tyler, not arrogance." Her words struck a nerve, but Tyler wasn't ready to admit it. Instead, he exhaled sharply and waved her off. "Enough. You've said plenty tonight. You're done here. Don't bother coming back tomorrow. You're fired." Emily blinked, the finality of his words hitting her like a punch to the gut. But she refused to let him see her falter. She squared her shoulders, nodded once, and walked toward the elevator. "Fine," she said over her shoulder. "But one day, you'll realize that leadership is about more than profits and power. And when that day comes, I hope you remember tonight." The elevator doors closed behind her, leaving Tyler alone in the dimly lit garage. For the first time in years, he felt the sting of doubt creeping in. The next morning, Emily sat in her small kitchen, scrolling through job postings on her phone. Her thoughts were interrupted by a call from an unfamiliar number. She hesitated but answered. "Hello, Emily Carter." The voice on the other end was warm and confident. "This is Lauren Bennett. We met last night at the dinner." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, I remember. How can I help you?" Lauren chuckled. "Actually, I think it's the other way around. I was impressed by what you said last night. Your perspective was refreshing, and frankly, I think Tyler underestimated what you brought to the table. I'd like to offer you a position on my team. How does that sound?" Emily was stunned. The last thing she expected after being fired was an opportunity like this. but she quickly regained her composure. "I'm honored," she said, her voice steady. "Thank you, Miss Bennett. I'd love to discuss the details." "Great. Call me Lauren. Let's meet for coffee tomorrow morning. I'll send you the address." After hanging up, Emily leaned back in her chair, a small smile forming on her lips. Being fired by Tyler wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. Meanwhile, Tyler's situation was spiraling. The investors from the dinner remained skeptical, and rumors of the company's instability began to spread. For the first time, Tyler found himself truly isolated. His attempts to salvage deals were met with lukewarm responses, and even his most loyal employees began to question his judgment. One evening, as Tyler reviewed financial reports in his now empty office, his phone buzzed. It was an email, a notice that Lauren Bennett's firm had acquired a significant portion of his company's shares. Accompanying the email was a formal invitation to a meeting with a new leadership team. Tyler's chest tightened as he scanned the names, and one in particular stood out: Emily Carter. The meeting was held in a sleek conference room overlooking downtown Boston. Tyler arrived early, his usual confidence replaced by a quiet unease. He straightened his tie, rehearsing his arguments in his head. But when the door opened and Emily walked in, he froze. She was no longer the housekeeper he had dismissed. Dressed in a tailored suit, her auburn hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders, Emily exuded a calm authority that caught him off guard. She met his gaze with a neutral expression. "Good morning, Mr. Hayes," she said evenly. Tyler cleared his throat, struggling to mask his discomfort. "Emily, I didn't expect to see you here." "I'm sure you didn't," she replied, taking a seat across from him. "But things change, don't they?" Before Tyler could respond, the other members of the leadership team entered, and the meeting began. Emily presented a detailed plan for restructuring the company, one that prioritized transparency, sustainability, and community engagement. Tyler, though initially skeptical, couldn't help but admire her composure and vision. It was a stark contrast to his own leadership style, and for the first time, he felt truly out of his depth. The meeting concluded, and the leadership team filtered out of the room. Tyler lingered, watching Emily gather her papers. As she turned to leave, he stepped forward. "Emily," he began, his voice quieter than she remembered. "Can we talk?" She hesitated, then nodded, motioning toward an empty office. Once inside, she crossed her arms, waiting for him to speak. "I didn't know you'd—" Tyler paused, searching for the right words. "I didn't expect you to rise this quickly." Emily raised an eyebrow. "You didn't expect me to rise at all, Tyler. Let's not sugarcoat it." Her bluntness stung, but Tyler couldn't deny the truth in her words. "Look," he said, his tone softening. "I know I made mistakes. Firing you, dismissing you as one of them. But I need to understand, why are you here? Why help save the company of someone who clearly didn't value you?" Emily studied him for a moment before replying. "This isn't about you, Tyler. It's about the employees who rely on this company, the clients who trust it, and the potential it has to do more than just chase profits. Saving it isn't personal. It's necessary." Her words left Tyler speechless. For the first time, he realized just how much his selfishness had cost, not only his company, but his relationships and reputation. Despite the tense reunion, the weeks that followed brought unexpected collaboration between Tyler and Emily. While her team worked to stabilize the company, she insisted on Tyler's involvement in critical decisions, forcing him to confront the consequences of his leadership. Their dynamic was strained but productive. Emily's calm pragmatism often clashed with Tyler's instinct for bold, risky moves, leading to heated debates in the boardroom. One such debate occurred when the company faced a crucial choice: accept a high-paying contract with questionable ethics or pivot to a more sustainable but less lucrative partnership. Tyler, desperate to regain investor trust, argued for the former. "We don't have the luxury of turning down money right now," he said, his voice rising. "This contract could keep us afloat for another quarter." Emily shook her head. "And when the fallout comes, it'll sink us entirely. If we want to rebuild trust, we need to stand for something, Tyler, not just chase short-term gains." The boardroom fell silent. All eyes were on Tyler as he weighed her words. Slowly, he exhaled and nodded. "Fine," he said. "We'll do it your way." It was a small victory for Emily, but one that marked a turning point for Tyler. He began to see the value in her approach, and though he wouldn't admit it outright, he respected her for challenging him. One evening, Emily was working late in her new office when there was a knock at the door. To her surprise, it was Tyler holding 2 cups of coffee. "Peace offering?" he asked, setting one on her desk. Emily smirked, taking the cup. "What's the catch?" Tyler chuckled. "No cuts. Just thought you might need it. You've been working hard." They sat in silence for a moment, sipping their drinks. Finally, Tyler spoke. He said, staring into his cup, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said about leadership being more than control. You were right. I've spent my whole career chasing numbers, and look where it's gotten me." Emily looked at him, surprised by his candor. "Realizing that is the first step," she said. "The next is deciding what you're going to do about it." Tyler nodded, a flicker of determination in his eyes. "I'm ready to try, but I'll need your help." Over the next few months, Tyler threw himself into the company's new direction. He joined Emily on visits to community projects and training programs, meeting employees and beneficiaries face to face. These interactions challenged him in ways he hadn't expected. At one event, Tyler met Rachel, a young woman who had recently completed a skills training program. She shared her story of overcoming homelessness to secure a stable job. "Thanks to the company's initiatives, your program gave me hope," Rachel said, her voice trembling with emotion. "For the first time in years, I feel like I have a future." Tyler felt a lump in his throat. In that moment, he realized that the company's impact extended far beyond profit margins. It was about people, real lives that were changed because of the work they were doing. Emily watched him from across the room, a small smile on her lips. She could see the transformation in him, and for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope that Tyler could truly change. As Tyler delved deeper into the company's community initiatives, he began to shed the arrogance that had once defined him. These experiences were humbling, forcing him to reevaluate his priorities. He started asking questions, not about profit projections, but about people's lives, their struggles, and how the company could do better. One morning, Emily invited Tyler to join her at a local training center in Boston's Dorchester neighborhood. The center, funded by the company, helped single parents re-enter the workforce. As they arrived, Tyler was struck by the modesty of the building. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with energy as participants attended workshops and mentoring sessions. Emily introduced him to Marcus, a program graduate who had recently landed a job as a project coordinator. Marcus, in his early 30s, radiated pride as he spoke about his journey. "I'll be honest, Mr. Hayes," Marcus said. "Before this program, I felt invisible. No one cared about my potential. But this place gave me the skills and confidence to start over. Now, I'm helping others do the same." Tyler nodded, deeply moved. "You've built something incredible here, Marcus. Thank you for sharing your story." As they left the center, Tyler turned to Emily. "I never realized how disconnected I've been from the people who make this company what it is. It's like I've been running it from an ivory tower." Emily smiled softly, acknowledging that is a step forward, Tyler. "Now it's about what you do next." As Tyler embraced this new perspective, his relationship with Emily began to shift. Their conversations, once filled with tension, now carried a sense of mutual respect. However, not everyone in the company welcomed Tyler's transformation. At a board meeting, one senior executive, Daniel Reeve, challenged Tyler's commitment to the new direction. "This all sounds noble," Daniel said, his tone laced with skepticism. "But we're still a business. These community programs are bleeding resources. If we don't refocus on profits, we'll collapse." The room fell silent, the tension thick. Tyler glanced at Emily, who gave him an encouraging nod. "Daniel," Tyler began, his voice calm but firm, "I understand your concerns, but we're not just building a business, we're building trust. If we prioritize people, the profits will follow. That's the kind of company I want to lead." Emily chimed in. "We've already seen results from our initiatives: higher employee retention, stronger brand loyalty, and increased client interest. These aren't just feel-good projects, they're investments in our future." Though Daniel remained unconvinced, the rest of the board seemed to rally behind Tyler and Emily's vision. For Tyler, it was a moment of triumph, not because he had won an argument, but because he had stood for something greater than himself. As Tyler and Emily spent more time together, their professional bond deepened into something more personal. Tyler found himself drawn to Emily's unwavering resolve and the warmth she brought to every situation. Emily, in turn, saw a side of Tyler she hadn't thought existed, a man willing to admit his flaws and grow. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Tyler invited Emily to dinner at a quiet bistro overlooking Boston Harbor. As they shared a meal, the conversation drifted from work to their personal lives. "You're different now," Emily said, studying him thoughtfully. "When I first started working for you, I didn't think you were capable of change." Tyler chuckled, though his expression turned serious. "I didn't think I was either. But you showed me a different way, Emily. You didn't just challenge me, you believed in me when I didn't deserve it." For a moment, their eyes locked, the air between them charged with unspoken emotion. Tyler hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Emily, I know this might complicate things, but I have to be honest. I care about you, not just as a colleague, but as someone who's become an important part of my life." Emily's cheeks flushed, but she met his gaze steadily. "Tyler, I care about you too, but this is new territory for both of us. We need to take it slow." He nodded, a small smile forming. "Slow works for me, as long as we're moving forward." In the weeks that followed, Tyler and Emily navigated their new relationship carefully, ensuring it didn't interfere with their work. Their connection, however, only strengthened their partnership. Together, they spearheaded new initiatives, blending Tyler's strategic vision with Emily's focus on community impact. One of their most ambitious projects involved partnering with local schools to provide mentorship and internships for underprivileged students. During the launch event, Tyler gave a heartfelt speech, sharing his own journey of growth. "This company has taught me that success isn't measured by numbers alone," he said. "It's about the lives we touch and the opportunities we create. I'm proud to stand here today, knowing we're building something that truly matters." As the audience erupted in applause, Tyler glanced at Emily, who stood off to the side, smiling proudly. He knew he wouldn't be where he was without her. Months turned into years, and the company blossomed under the co-leadership of Tyler and Emily. Their initiatives expanded beyond Boston, reaching other cities and touching countless lives. The company's reputation transformed from a struggling enterprise to a national leader in ethical business practices. One day, during a quarterly review meeting, a new crisis emerged. A major supplier was discovered to have unethical labor practices, and the company's association with them threatened to tarnish their hard-earned reputation. The board was divided. Some suggested quietly severing ties, while others feared the financial fallout of taking a public stance. Tyler, once hesitant to act boldly in such situations, now took a firm position. "We can't compromise our values," he said. "If we're serious about leading with integrity, we have to be transparent, even if it costs us in the short term." Emily nodded in agreement. "We need to own this, acknowledge the mistake, end the partnership, and focus on building relationships with suppliers who align with our mission." Together, they crafted a public statement and launched a plan to audit all future suppliers. Though the decision faced backlash initially, it ultimately strengthened the company's credibility. Clients and employees rallied around the leadership inspired by their commitment to doing the right thing. While their professional lives flourished, Tyler and Emily's relationship deepened. They spent more time outside of work, exploring Boston's historic streets, attending community events, and finding joy in the simplest moments. Tyler, once consumed by his career, discovered a new sense of balance with Emily by his side. One crisp autumn afternoon, they took a walk along the Charles River. The leaves painted the city in hues of orange and gold, and the air was filled with the sound of distant rowers and laughing children. Tyler stopped suddenly, turning to Emily with a serious expression. "Emily," he began, reaching for her hand. "I never imagined my life would turn out this way. You've not only changed me, you've made me better in ways I didn't think were possible. I want to spend the rest of my life building something meaningful with you, not just at work, but at home." Emily's eyes widened as Tyler knelt and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Emily, tears shining in her eyes, nodded. Yes, Tyler. Of course, yes. Their wedding was a small, intimate affair held in the garden of a historic Boston manor. Friends, colleagues, and members of the community they had helped attended, celebrating the union of two people whose partnership had reshaped not just the company, but the lives of so many. Tyler, now 44, and Emily, 30, stood together as equals, their vows reflecting their shared commitment to growth, trust, and service. As co-leaders, Tyler and Emily continue to inspire their team with their authenticity and dedication. They launched mentorship programs for young professionals, advocating for leadership built on humility and empathy. Tyler often spoke about his transformation, sharing his story to encourage others to embrace change. One evening, during a leadership retreat, Tyler addressed a group of new hires. Leadership isn't about perfection, he said. It's about learning from your mistakes, listening to those around you, and always striving to do better. I wouldn't be here without the people who challenged me, people like Emily, who taught me that true success is measured by the impact you leave behind. Emily, standing nearby, smiled, her heart full as she watched the man Tyler had become. With the company thriving, Tyler and Emily began planning their next steps. They wanted to expand their social initiatives internationally, ensuring that their mission reached underserved communities worldwide. Together, they envisioned a legacy that would continue long after they stepped away from day-to-day operations. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their townhouse overlooking the Boston skyline, Emily turned to Tyler. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" she asked. Tyler nodded, his gaze soft. "All the time, and I'm grateful for the challenges, the lessons, and most of all, for you." Emily smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "We've built something amazing, Tyler. But the best part? We're just getting started."